It all started back in early December. The symptoms were pretty minor. I was fatigued, had a little bit of anxiety, and mild tingles in my head. So I didn't really think anything of it. Then, because I had ignored it for so long, it started to develop into some serious physical and mental problems. I found myself waking up in the middle of the night every few days having a panic attack, and sometimes there was a nightmare that was associated with it too. And panic attacks are something that I haven't had to such a severity since I stopped smoking green. And if you don't really know what a panic attack is, basically the best way that I can explain it is that it feels like your heart is pounding out of your body and you're literally about to die and there's nothing you can do about it. This was the first indication, the first trigger of things going overboard for me. Then, the groin pain. Yeah, it's as bad as it sounds. I'm not going to go into too much detail for obvious reasons, but I thought that something was seriously wrong with me due to the fact that not only was I having these anxiety and panic attacks, but also now I was experiencing physical pain. And physical pain that I had never experienced before in my entire life. I started searching things up and I became convinced that I might have some sort of tumor or infection or I was deficient in something. And that only further fueled the anxiety and panic attacks that I was experiencing. And because I was experiencing physical pain, along with that, my physical pain got worse. Perhaps at this point, I could have started to recover from what I was going through had I just stopped and contemplated what was happening, what this situation was, but I was way too obsessed with the hustle and grind of YouTube to even consider that possibility. I was working like 10 hours a day, every day, with no breaks. And this was almost every single day for the past, a couple years it's been now, I think. I barely went outside or saw people. All of my energy was being thrown into content, money. Finally, by the end of the month, I just told myself, okay, something clearly isn't working here. I need to take a break, and that's what I did. I announced that I'd be taking a break from Instagram, YouTube, all social medias for 1 week. But I couldn't even go the full 7 days without working. I think by day 5 or so, I was editing my next video, so it wasn't even a proper break. At this point, my anxiety was evolving to anxiety and depression from having not felt at my full 100% for so long, because I needed to always be moving forward and making progress. Then, at the climax of my emotional and physical distress, before I was about to go to sleep one night, I basically had a full-on meltdown where I let out all of my emotions and thoughts and feelings. I just let them all pour out from me in different ways. I remember I was playing my drums as fast as humanly possible at like 12 at night, just banging them and just telling myself, this is it, just let out everything that you felt mentally and physically right here, just leave it all out. If you've ever seen Whiplash, it's basically like that scene where Andrew was practicing so hard that he punched through his snare drum, minus the punch. I went to bed that night feeling satisfyingly exhausted, thinking to myself, that was it. That was the last day of all of this. And when the morning came, nothing was better. I only felt worse. I still had no answers. And on that day was when I recorded that video on my phone that I showed you in my previous video.
I don't want this anymore. I'm done.
That was when I had to ask myself, should I really quit YouTube and everything that I've worked for and built over the past few years? Or should I just take an actual break, 1 whole month off of social media, and then see where I'm at? And before doing anything that I would regret, like saying goodbye to this channel or posting how I was feeling during the time when it was actually happening, I decided to choose the latter and figure out how to deal with all of this shit and come out of it having learned something. So now that you have some context, let's go over those things I learned, but just to be straight up with you, what it really boils down to is the fact that I stopped taking pretty much all of my own advice from my old videos. The first step that I had to take, and I already briefly went over this as we talked about the story, was that I had to acknowledge and take responsibility over the fact that something had to change. If you're going through something similar and it's severe and it just came out of the blue, it's most likely that your body or your mind is just telling you, hey, you gotta change something. You have to be proactive, and if you continue to follow the same ways of thinking or the same routine, you're gonna be stuck here for a while. I had to give myself the space needed for acknowledgement, take responsibility, and tell myself, all right, I'm in a rut. Then I had to ask myself, what's my next course of action? See where I'm going wrong and get help. One of the greatest things that I told myself during this time was this. It's that each new chapter of your life is going to require a different version of yourself, and getting to that next version is going to be comfortable, and your body and your mind is probably going to reject it because our body and mind loves comfort, it loves complacency, and it loves routine. And I knew already that I was capable of changing and growing and coming out of this a more evolved person because of all the work that I've put in these past few years. If you don't believe you are there yet, then yes, my older videos can help you realize your power, but what really helped validate me and make me remember how capable I am of growing is actually going to therapy for the first time since I was a small kid. And that is something that I recommend to just about everybody, and that is where the sponsor of today's video comes in, BetterHelp. You've probably heard me talk about BetterHelp before. They will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. BetterHelp has helped over 2 million people now live happier, healthier lives, and they have 20,000 therapists on the platform, and they're adding more to meet demand. And they really help you to calm your stress and to provide solutions for your problems, your specific problems. That's why therapy is so effective, and possibly more effective than my YouTube videos. On BetterHelp, you can start communicating within 48 hours, and the service is available worldwide. You'll be able to log into your account at any time and send a message to your therapist. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you don't have to wait in a really uncomfortable waiting room in public. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they give you the option to change your therapist for free if you need to. It is more affordable than traditional offline therapy, and financial aid is available as well. BetterHelp and I want you to start living a happier life today, and for you to be proactive and finally take action if you've been going through something for a while. So go to the link in the description and visit betterhelp.com/Cole. That is betterhelp.com/Cole, and join the over 2 million people who are improving their relationships with themselves and others. And a special offer for listeners of my channel, Cole Hastings, you can get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Cole. So after I acknowledged where I was, and I knew that the universe or my higher self or whatever you wanted to call it was telling me to be proactive and change, I first started with those physical pains that I was dealing with. So I ended up going to the doctors, who helped clear up all of the concerns that I had about my groin pain until I was left with just one answer. I had no infection or tumor or anything that serious. What I developed was something called chronic pelvic pain syndrome, or CPPS. And if you want to learn just how awful the symptoms can get from this, you can do your own research after this video. What conspired after this was a gradual shift in the way that I exercise. I started putting more emphasis on balance, recovery, and flexibility rather than just lifting heavy ass weights without the proper rest. And now I do something that was recommended for pelvic floor pain, but is also just recommended for literally everything, especially if you are a weightlifter, which is yoga. This is what I do about twice a week now. There are a load of benefits from doing yoga, including enhanced flexibility, mobility, and recovery from resistance training. But above all, I think what helped me the most is how well it has helped me connect with my breath. The breath is something that many of us take for granted or just completely ignore because it's an automatic process. But there is so much power in being able to control and become more aware of your breath. Even though I've been meditating twice a day for a couple of years now, it paled in comparison to yoga's ability to really get me to understand and connect to my body. You see, you're putting yourself in challenging positions that require you to concentrate all of your awareness on all of your muscle and bodily sensations while controlling your breath. After every yoga session, I always come out of it feeling more refreshed and ready to handle my day better. And to practice, I just follow a video off of YouTube, which makes it very easy to get into, so if you are interested, I'll leave some of my favorite channels in the description. Along with that, another physical thing that I did to release stress and feel more balanced was to simply just take a 10 to 15 minute walk every morning. When I was down bad, I was usually just going immediately into my work after meditating and doing some mobility exercises, and although that helped, it still didn't provide me with enough space that I needed to handle my heavy workload.
So I've been slacking on walking since I've gotten to Austin, so this is my first time out here, and what I do on these walks, I actually kill two birds with one stone. I have my earbuds and I listen to a Japanese podcast every morning just to get some immersion in. A lot of you guys know I'm trying to learn Japanese, which by the way, is going okay.
I've actually made a whole video on the benefits of walking and wrote about it in my book too, if you are interested in hearing more about it. So those are the more physical things that I've adopted. Now let's move on to the mental shifts that I discovered from both journaling and what my therapist told me. The most impactful statement that summed up why I was in this rut was that stress is not the problem. Yes, I know that sounds crazy to hear, especially after everything that I've said so far, and that's because I haven't finished the statement yet. The full statement is stress is not the problem. It's the lack of recovery from stress that's the problem. You know, you will always have some form of stress throughout your life, and actually having a little bit of stress sometimes is healthy. It is only when you do not give yourself the proper amount of time and space away from those stressful activities that stress starts to become a problem. You know, I could have completely avoided the amount of time that it took me to get over these physical and mental symptoms and to have them be at such a severity had I just created more space in my day to recover from the stress and the heavy workload. And I know I talk about this so much in my videos, the idea of balance, of not working too hard and just always, no matter how much money is on the table, if it makes you sacrifice your mental health, it is not worth it. It's the steady, slow progress with a nice balanced lifestyle that I believe is the optimal way of existing that I was not doing. And so finally, I want to share what my therapist told me, and it's specifically helpful in regards to anxiety. So this really great mindset shift that he allowed me to have was that physiologically, there is no difference between having a panic attack and doing really heavy exercise. Having a panic attack, like I said, it's like having your heart pounding out of your chest and you're breathing super heavily and you feel like you're not in control of it, but it's the exact same feelings as if you were working out. It's just your mentality towards that thing. Because I was waking up in the middle of the night having a panic attack, it was like, this isn't supposed to be happening right now. This is only something that should be happening if I was doing heavy exercise. And so because I thought it wasn't supposed to be happening and I had no control over it like I do when I'm exercising, that's why it had such a negative mental impact on me. And identifying that and knowing that is enough for me to say, if it does happen again, you know, this is just something that my brain thinks is happening and I'm not going to die, obviously, and that this is a temporary thing that will go away soon and isn't going to harm me in any way. Thank you so much to all my patrons on Patreon. If you don't know what this is, it's a platform separate from YouTube where I'm putting out exclusive content you can't find anywhere else. You can also talk to me one-on-one on there if you're about that. It's in the description below, patreon.com/Cole Hastings. I mentioned that maybe you're not at the point yet where you realize your power and what you're capable of, so check out this video and that will really help you to understand how to reprogram your brain and deal with negative emotions better. So that's it. Thank you guys so much. I love you and see you in the next video, baby.